never arrested, but one guy got elected trustee of the trust funds. That means he would have a right to know exactly what's in the budget as an elected official. So he's not like us having to ask for something. He's elected, he goes and sees the budget process firsthand. And I saw a letter to the editor, the union leader, saying, I'm concerned about my town and lack of transparency. I called him up, he asked the right questions. Rosie McNamara got arrested and pled guilty to stealing $111,000. $111,000. She misappropriated $2 million when the auditors went in and checked everything. Do you see how this works? She was represented by a lawyer for free, because she's a pauper, from the governor's office. So the governor is married to a guy that owns a law firm. Someone from his law firm was her free attorney. And the 3 members of the parole board that heard her hearing for parole were all appointed by our governor. That lawyer, the law firm's founder's husband, the wife. So it's a very small state. Everybody knows everybody else. It's hand-to-hand combat when it comes to this, because sometimes you get to meet somebody you actually know from another aspect of your life. So you may have helped somebody in a campaign or been on a board with somebody. A lot of these small towns, the husband is selectman, the wife is a tax collector, the brother-in-law is the road agent, relatives are police. It's very, very small. So turning to someone and saying, hey, there's a lot of money missing, becomes very difficult. And we're that third party that will point that out. So Rosie McNamara got 2 years in jail, and I think she was supposed to pay back the money. It didn't, and then went back to jail, as we heard. So we have that, and the town of Atkinson. Another aspect of right to know is your ability to go to public meetings, take photographs, participate in a public meeting. I went to a public meeting in the town of Atkinson, and we have our own photographer, Gary Brownfield. Takes beautiful pictures. He's a professional photographer, professional equipment. He was at the meeting taking pictures. The moderator stopped the meeting and told him not to take pictures. Totally illegal. So I told the guy next to me, because I don't live in that town, told the resident next to me, go up to the microphone and tell the moderator who doesn't want his picture taken to leave the meeting, because it's a public meeting, and hand the gavel to an assistant moderator. That's the law. He wouldn't do it. They took a vote to vote that our photographer could not take pictures. Now, if you notice a picture of me sitting there with a red shirt on, behind me is the camera. The moderator who didn't want his picture taken was on live cable TV. All those meetings are public and they're on television. And he stopped our photographer from taking pictures, and men came over and tried to take the flash drive from his camera. We went to court. A former Supreme Court justice in our state took the case for nothing. Took the case to court. We lost. We lost. So what we had was, in the end, we kind of had a draw. That moderator had been sued so many times, no one would insure him, and he had to quit being a moderator. So we won by default. If that's the way we win, that's what we'll take. The moderator, with a big hammer that controls the meeting, that shut down our cameraman, had done this type of thing so many times and been sued by so many different people, and then finally us. He couldn't buy liability insurance to cover himself for other legal problems. So he had to resign his position as moderator. A new moderator took over, a state representative. And the first thing he did was announce to the next meeting the cameras were allowed, people could take pictures, and our guy sat right up front taking pictures where he was before. The pictures are great. We should actually have them on the wall. They're professional pictures like anybody would take. So if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to take them. I know this is kind of jump around, but if you ever have any questions about this stuff, we have documentation. We can provide you with like sequential documents. Does that make sense? Sequential documents that show the pattern.
패턴을 보여주는 순차적으로 되어 있는 그런 문서도 받을 수 있어요.
And here Here's how simple a right to know request would be. I can take this piece of paper, I can write on that RSA 91A or right to know request. I hereby request a copy of the highway budget for the town of Deering for the year 2014. Signed, Ed Nail, time, and hand it to them, and they have to respond. The Attorney General's office responds, the Department of Revenue responds, the governor the governor's tried not to respond. But that's how simple the right to know law. So when someone calls us and says, I want to get these documents, we just tell them, you have a pen, write this down. And in New Hampshire, we've written court cases on documents like that and gone to Superior Court. The right to know was something handwritten like that and won. The union leader, where it says cameras not welcome in Windsor, that was a handwritten case. I'll show you. This was a handwritten case in the hallway of the courthouse on yellow notepad. His town, before we caught him with the money problems, his town tried to deny photographers taking pictures at their town meeting. The photographer, the guy with the camera, was a PBS cameraman. He was a professional cameraman. They were furious. So we won that case. And then Ebb won the original case, pro se, that means Latin for without an attorney. We wrote the case. Ebb presented the case himself, never been to court before, walked up, read his case. The judge had him come up to the table. She said, how much did this cost you to file? He gave a price, and she told the town, get your checkbook out. You're going to pay Mr. Chamberlain that money. So the right to know law is pretty, there's a lot of laws the state skips, but the right to know law, judges still uphold it. And I don't know how things are in Korea, but this is something you desperately need to get anything done at all. If you're ever looking for corruption or want to try and stem corruption, just them going to bed at night knowing someone's going to find that, I got this from 2002 from State Archives last Friday. They keep this stuff for a long, long time. So I went to State Archives, they couldn't be nicer. Shake your hand, I'll have that for you tomorrow at such and such a time. It's a very, very good thing to have. I don't know how you do this in Korea, South Korea?
한국에는 정보공개법이라는 법이 있습니다.
We have a Freedom of Information Act.
A Freedom of Information Act, okay.
아마도 비슷한 것 같고요. 예, 정보공개 청구를 하는 것들은 내국인이라면 누구나 가능하고
Any Korean citizen
Oh, great.
can right to know request.
외국인이라도 대한민국 국내에 사무실을 두거나
If they have an office in Korea,
연구의 목적이나 연관까지 요건이 있을 때 청구 가능합니다.
and if they meet certain criteria, they can also submit a request.
So is that a federal law, or is it local? Does it descend to local governments?
A bit about Korea, there's no federal Korea, so just one national government.
One national government, okay. You don't have municipal government then?
Well, there's a local government as well, but
Okay.
그게 그러면 그 중앙정부에는 건가요?
중앙정부와 지방자치단체 그리고 학교와 사회복지 시설 같은 것들.
So that law is applicable to the national government and the municipal government and the
Great.
school and other social organizations.
Here, I could write a right to know request for something of the state government or municipality, hand it to any one of you. You could walk in, put it on the table, and they would have to respond. Yep, that's the way it works here. So,
예, 인터넷 스토어에서도 쉽게 할 수 있습니다.
You can also do it electronically on the web.
yep, we have 235 towns,
타운이 235개가 있습니다.
about a dozen cities, counties, and 100 or so schools. So it's with 235 towns, each one has its own personality. Some just hand you what you want, and others are very suspicious of why you're asking, and they try not to give it to you. So we seem to have reoccurring problems in individual towns where we eventually get to meet their attorney. And here's what we do. With right to know, usually it's a pretty straightforward deal. If we think that they're going to fight us, we'll prepare a superior court case like you would give to a court, to a judge. We will give them that case and give them 30 days to respond. Okay? Here's our case. Here's how we will file it in 30 days unless you do what we say. 31 days later, you take it to the courthouse, put down $260, file it, and the clerk looks at it, the judge signs it, and gives you a court date. Usually, we also notify the town or school's attorney. Here's the case we will file against you in 30 days, and here's our reason for doing so, annotations, and the law. When you get to court, after you've done that, the first thing out of the judge's mouth is, why are we here today? Counsel? So the counsel for the town is supposed to prevent the town from going to court. So if the first thing you do is notify him officially, him or her officially, that you'll be taken to the court because of a specific law, when you get there, judges are very friendly when you've given that municipality an opportunity to respond and laid out your legal argument, which we're very happy to do. So that's one of our claims to fame. They all know that. So most of the attorneys who get a letter from us immediately pick up the phone, call the town or school and say, what's going on? Because you can't play that game in front of the judge if we notified you. That's one of our favorite little tricks we learned the hard way. And our case works so well in Windsor, I don't think ever before that I know of, a judge has said, in the courtroom during the case, you're going to pay that million. You've won your case when a judge says that. Other lawyers don't even believe it happened. We've had to have people say, I was in the courtroom, other lawyers, I was in the courtroom, I saw it. So you build credibility, and there's some of the judges that hear these, that the same judges will take right to know over and over again. So if you're in Hillsborough County, you're probably going to get the same judge for right to know. And if they see you and you've come in before with a legitimate case, the town has some explaining to do. And they've recently, within the last 5 years, they've put provisions into the law to hold some of these people personally liable for fines. Because before, if they lost a right to know case, they just drug it out as long as possible and there was no damages. Now there are damages for reoccurring problems.
This lawyer lost his job.
Yeah, the lawyer from Ebb's case found other employment rather quickly after he lost to the electrician and the logger.
말씀 중간에 같은 판사가 담당하게 된다고 얘기하셨는데요. 그게 전담 판사가 있다는, 전담 재판부가 있다는 뜻인지 아니면
In the court system, they'll have some that'll do, divorce, accidents, trials, and then right to know is municipal. So I think they pick a judge who has some experience in that. So any judge could do it. It's not very complicated. There's not a lot to it. There's not really any testimony. It's especially if you're asking for something you know they have. So if you say, I am asking for the expense reports for the fire department, you know they exist. So they have to give them to you. In the case of Windsor, we were asking for the town's finances, which have to be reported to the state. So the state knew that they weren't being reported and warned the town over and over again. And once we were involved, that was it. So they could no longer hide it. So I don't know if you have I've never met the taxpayers group from South Korea. I've met Canada, Australia, Germany, Austria. I've met other taxpayer groups. Do you have groups like that in South Korea?
Croc TV.